Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So today I am pleased to enjoy a conversation with a good friend of mine named Hal, who produces music as Bobby Saint. And I met Hal a year or two ago at a friend's birthday party, and we just immediately clicked and started talking esoteric philosophy by the pool, and I had an instant bro crush and was just fascinated and was looking forward to stealing his style and getting my own tropical shirts and matching shorts. And then next thing I knew, it was like, holy shit, you do music? Like, your fucking voice is fun to listen to. And then one thing led to another, and we started recording and ended up with not only some incredible tracks, but a lot of ideas for new ones. And so I thought it would be good to have a conversation with him. And so without further ado, I bring you Bobby Saint.
Yo, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's rewind all the way back to, like, where'd you grow up? How'd you get into music? Just, you know, were you more into art as a kid or music, or what were you into? And what was that kind of journey like to realize that you were an artist?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Barbados. It's in the eastern Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean, near to South America. It's truly a magical land, man. I grew up in this little town called St. Barnabas Heights. It's literally a gully. You walk through my back gate, and you open the fence, and this overlooks this gigantic gully. Hundreds of monkeys live down there, and so it's this kind of crazy magical place. And that's where I first encountered like Rastafarians. They had like a little, pretty much a shanty built onto a steep side of the gully where, you know, this guy Isis, he's, how to put it? Isis was a teacher. He was someone that Rastas from all over the Caribbean came there to kind of study and learn from him. You know, he just so happened to be in my backyard, and I guess it was always the other side, and that's where, you know, I first saw art. You know, like Isis, he on the top of his shanty is crazy. I remember, is in my mind's eye is this like this beehive like built onto the side of the gully. You know, you rappel down to the top. You know, and like, so us as kids, we rappelling down to the top of this thing, and he'll bring us in and show us all like the oil paintings, and like, you know, he would talk to us, like, you know, tell us all types of things, you know, like this reasoning, this Rastafari reasoning, cook food, you know. Wow. The best way I could say he was like a teacher, you know, like he was my real introduction to realizing how powerful art was, and talking about the concepts within the art. And so, like, you know, like literally have conversations. Man, I was around, this is around what age? This is like 8, I want to say, like 8, 9, maybe around that kind of age. And you sit with kids all the time, they'll feel a pull towards certain like magic, you know, certain like this a vibe, you know. And the gully was that pull for me. And the real, like, actually I gotta give props to my boy Tabokian, who is you know, R.I.P. Tabok, my best friend in life. We were friends before we could even form words. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but he was the person that really brought me to that place, you know. He was like, he knew I would be interested, you know.
Beautiful.
You know, when I really think back about art and where that like passion and interest and like, you know, diving beyond, you know, I would say it started in that gully, man, for real.
Wow.
I mean, I was going to church, and my family were singers, of course. So it was like, my mom was a singer, more operatic kind of style, and my dad was also the same, like very classically trained. They did choirs, and so, you know, there's music on that side, you know, and there's, you know, the theology aspect, which is in its own way served as a powerful waypoint as well, by thinking in conjunction with access to those like this elders that still held like Africa in high regard, and like, you know, the energies of the earth, and, you know, being one with the earth, and like this connection. And I'm just intrigued to ask you a bit about God, religion, philosophy.
For myself, growing up in essentially like a Jesus commune, it was really a lot of beauty to it. But when my parents left and I was 5, they kind of transitioned from like a more 70s hippie, Jesus is love religion, and they got really strict, like born again Christian. And I followed suit and ended up like just completely overboard Jesus camp, like completely Christian until about 11, 12, 13. And the journey like out of that kind of closed-minded religion and into my adulthood really was intertwined with music and with similar kind of things to what you mentioned of like exploring and discovering these people with these incredible perspectives and people who treated me like an equal. That sounds like Isis did, like talking to you like
just as a human, just as a human, like looking at me like purely as this like other consciousness in front of him, like nothing else.
I love that. Do you feel comfortable talking a bit about your family and the religion they're in, both like who was in your family and were they strict and stuff? And then also, what was your kind of relationship to God or ethics or morality or philosophy, and how did that kind of evolve?
Well, I got a lot to say about the shit, but all right, the Caribbean is such it's a spiritual place. It's a place of Yoruba. That's where our people are from. The people they really have a strong belief in spiritual action. There's also this like sense of there's no real sense of our ancestry there. That to be completely real. That's where they tested all the how to like break people. That's where all that stuff came from. That's where they wrote the books, how to break people down, and for me, at the end of it all, I mean, I can talk about the end before I talk about the beginning a little bit. Like that part of it was the real scar at the end of the day. But there's clearly lots of stuff we don't understand about our current existence and the depth of it all, so it's hard for me to go like, is there some creator being on top of it all? I don't, to me, that's not an important question anymore. I just think it's so vast and so beautiful and so like, I wish humanity would spend more time just kind of looking into the void and connecting on that and seeing what we can do, in this current existence that is really beyond this kind of greed kind of mindset and, this, thus saith this, thus saith that, this, these people are bad, these people are good, all that kind of like, I don't know, I just think that's still sludge in the mush, like still like primordial ooze, somewhat.
Well, it's so much mystery, and I used to, in kind of like college hippie days where I was like post-religion and kind of not so much atheist as just like, what is it? Not antagonist. What's it called? Agnostic. Just saying I fucking know. It was important for me to acknowledge God because like we all know, we all have that feeling, we all sense that fucking mystery that can make you cry. Like we know that there's something, but over time and like kind of getting more nihilistic and absurdist as I've grown up, I guess I feel more at peace. In fact, it almost feels inappropriate and garish to assume that I, this like fucking little ant, can conceive of it, that I even have the brain processing capacity. And it seems insulting to be like, oh, me, this human? Yeah, I know God. I actually know God chose me and I can explain God to you. And I remember reading this book by Albert Einstein called Thoughts and Ideas, and it was not a physics book. It was like a book of poems and like essays on religion and meaning. But what I fucking loved about it was he essentially focused on the word awe, A-W-E, awe and mystery as like the height of the human experience, and that instead of trying to explain everything or even saddling yourself with the need to know, just being in awe of the mystery that's so much greater than comprehension.
Yeah, man.
So I kind of feel that, but I just didn't know if you had kind of like a lingering.
I feel that I feel that's our future. I feel that's our only future that was the only things humans are really going to have that we can really do is to look into the void and extend our consciousness. And so I do believe some type of awakening needs to happen in that regard, but we can create new systems of operating with one another, so it obviously is a complicated thing, but I think it could all happen real fast.
I'm kind of tied on my optimism of like, is there an awakening? Are things getting better?
Like, I ain't trying to be, don't get me wrong, I'm not a political person in the least bit. I'm more on the revolutionary side. I'm more on the Marxist side. I'm more on the side that we need to be organizing in communities. I'm more on that vibe, to be completely real, but on the aspect of all this stuff and how it connects, the connective tissue of it all, that this, the people at the end of the day needs to have some type of revolutionary movement towards we are all human, we are all we are working class, we are communities, and all this fear, that part of it, I feel that is a step that needs to just kind of happen. You know what I mean? And I feel like that kind of thing happening could really avalanche. If really small coalition building, and that's why I see more of happening in the world, like Shama Suwant and all that kind of stuff. What's it called? She's doing now. Workers Strike Back and all those kind of things like that, where they're organizing more on kind of grassroots, that kind of stuff. For me, I think is the move, to be completely real, and I think that avalanches it. So I feel like. And I think it's also riper now, kind of in a place, in the age where we have so much access to information. It's you really don't even got an excuse anymore. You can go down any rabbit hole you want and learn exactly what you need to learn about anything, and see all types of perspectives and come to your own conclusion.
I love your spirit on this. I truly love that. And coming from both the hippie commune and the kind of liberal college experience, and even forming Bassnectar in the hopes of it being a political, revolutionary, social change, merging of music, I fucking love what you're talking about. Yet I also have had a lot of second guesses, basically just based off of my observations on human nature. I'm like babysitting the kids and watching how fucking prone to conflict they are, and then watching the parents, and they're just as goddamn dramatic. Even my most loving friends, all the gossip and infighting, and I do.
Have you ever been to the jungle, deep forest? The jungle is a violent, dark, but beautiful place. And this is my take, dog. There's these moments where if we just step back from everything, just step back from our current existence and these things and our whatever, just step back, it's our universe where we are at, we're on this rock hurtling through this space, in cosmic radiation, dude, it's great, dude. Our current existence is so nutso.
It's so nutso.
You know what I mean? Even without AI, dog, it's so nuts. It's so vast and intensely terrifying. If you really look into the abyss of it, and that's where I feel meditation, these kind of things for me go. I try to release myself into that empty, that space of chaos, because that's all it is that we are in this current existence. That's why I talk about humankind getting to a place where we start to focus on what is our actual existence, what is existence within itself, you know what I mean? Because when that becomes the focus, these little kind of things, even about anger and fear, all those things that get to shift, because we won't have a choice, because then we starting to look at our actual existence, our actual reality, not this overlay of sensuality and play and greed and this thing or that thing, or what aboutism, or just the actual fact of existence, and the the mere this like intensity of every moment if you really take it in and like think about where you are and like where you're on the planet, you're on this rock, you walk in, you're connecting right now, like on this thing that we're recording to put out in the future for other people to listen to us talk about this thing. Dude, it's nuts, so our existence. So I think, us giving into the chaos is, I think, not necessarily, I ain't trying to make people monks or something, but this the idea of this refocusing our energy. So like things like AI, like
what you're saying and expressing is, to me, very psychedelic. And while maybe you've never done psychedelics, you sound like you have, because there's, for me, this key that like changed everything in terms of perception. Was that a part of your kind of like cracking open, or
I mean,
did you just arrive at this at some weird like, because what you just said is very fucking true, but it's highly sensitive and unusual, I think, compared to mass culture, to think of it like that.
I definitely always was like really amazed at how incredibly intense and complex the world was, and like, whoa, like what are we like like bro like that always amazed me, and the idea of AI always amazed me too, and quantum computing, all these things, the ways to ask more questions, and to unravel more mystery. That was always incredibly interesting to me from a young age. I was always like, and as I said, that started in the gully, man. That idea of this looking at what is, like that's where that started, like it all really started there for that. And that's the kind of conversations he would have with us, like, about existence and,
wow,
and the connective tissue of it all,
Wow.
So honestly, like, yeah, bro, like, I mean, like psychedelics have, affirmed a lot of that for sure. And
I'm extra impressed by that, man. That's crazy.
And also, made me more intrigued for sure. Yeah.
Could I ask a bit? I think when we release this conversation, I think our helicopter track will be out. I don't think the Babylon, Condemn Babylon song will be done. But I wanted to talk about it just in terms of Babylon, the concept, and just kind of hear you riff on that. And I felt like at times in our previous 10 minutes, you were talking about things where it kind of sounded like you were referring to what I imagine you would define Babylon as. But when you wrote those lyrics, Babylon's the only one we condemn. I'd just love to hear you kind of share the philosophy of that.
Yeah. Man, I'm not a Rastafarian. I'm not Rasta. I don't profess Rastafarianism, but like I love the idea. I love how they use the word Babylon in their music. I love that concept of there always is not there always is. I don't think there always will be, but we've had a big problem with oppressors in our human history. It's like this greed issue, and I feel like there's always this layer of greed, not necessarily government or necessarily, it could be corporation, it could be a group, it could be a singular entity, but there's always this sludge, there's always this sense of wanting to take rather than wanting to create, and that's why I consider Babylon. I think, is the thing that wants it to suck and not create, not grow. It wants all the resources. It wants as much resources as possible. It wants the minds. It wants the hearts. It wants the spirits. It wants everything. It wants your everything. I think a great example is capitalism as a system. Is a great example. It's clearly saying that makes all people into machines, which we are not. So inevitably, that's going to break humanity, because we are not machines. We can't constantly create more. That doesn't make any sense. So to me, that's a Babylon system. You know what I mean? That's saying that is only taking. That's never really growing, and it needs. It only strives if there's a bottom end to like keep it going. If there's no cheap labor at the bottom of it, it doesn't even work. You know what I mean? So it's this that's to me one of those things. It's just sucking out everything to one direction, and we can like paint all types of things in that. I mean, the corporate overtake of, the U.S. Governments, no matter what size, red or blue. What I mean, like media, like the economic system. There's a lot of things you can like put into that system. They're all sucking in one direction. There's two flows. It's like the bottom and the top. Rather than the human race, which we, at this point in time, we got everything we need. All the technology, all the funds, all the lands, all the peoples, all the knowledge to move forward in a spectacularly different way. So to me, that's like a Babylon system.
Defining it as a system is really, that's wonderful and clarifying. It also made me think about kind of the inherent necessity for balance, like in the universe, positive and negative balance, the mandatory necessity of that. And it kind of leads me into another topic I wanted to ask you about, if you don't mind just kind of taking a left turn. To me, as a man, you're kind of the iconic balance. You are very strong and smart and proactive, but you're very gentle and receptive, and like the fact that we just started talking so seamlessly, and it went from just like getting to know each other to just like the sun setting and we're just philosophizing. That's a kind of a very sacred thing to me, specifically with my male friends. With my female friends, I seem to much easier arrive at like a place of vulnerable exchange, and there's just like a deeper softness. And with males, a lot of times there's more posturing, and you had none of that. And I just thought it was really respectable, because you kind of like, you could afford to. You're cool looking as shit. You could be a dick, but you weren't. And I sense that you're that way with everyone. So that's why I asked. And if you didn't mind me then parlaying next, I'm curious how all these things, if at all, are reflected in your music. The religion, the fractalizing mental outlook on the universe, the sensitivity, the upbringing, and maybe you don't want to lead the answer with my questions, but just like, what is behind your music outside of it just being fun? Is there a message? Is it a cohesive message, or is it more general song to song? And talk just a little bit about Bobby Saint.
Well, I mean, the Bobby Saint stuff is laden in spiritual stuff, man. I want it to be layers upon layers. That's always what it was about. That's always what it's going to be about. Is you playing a record down for people to come back to, So like I feel it's important to put things in there for people to discover, for people to just taking on the surface. So like for sure, that's all of that is imprinted in there in some form or fashion.
Yeah, working with you is so cool. For those listening, he rocks in this room with like this UV light, maybe it's blue, and like we're on the phone FaceTiming, and basically he'll like work in a day. So it's like, you got me from morning till dark. Maybe we make 5 songs, maybe we make half of a song, and it is such a seamless back and forth. It's just like being on a fucking playground or playing soccer or something. I did just want to dive in, because I was so like, when you sent the lyrics, really we're not scared of them, and I know you want to see me fall. To me, it hit this visceral nerve. It was such a powerful sentiment, because it's not victimized. It's like way above the conflict, and it's actually kind of like sympathetically like acknowledging, like, I know you're petty, and I know that you're entrenched in some need to be an adversary based on how I'm shining, and it to fall implies that you have achieved some kind of high destination. And I remember during the pandemic starting to read about this word that I can't pronounce. It's a German word, looks like Schadenfreude or something, but it basically means the obsessive fascination or even delight in the downfall of others, like relishing in that kind of toxic rubbernecking of drama. And do you mind just kind of like talking about those lyrics and like where that came from? And yeah, I'm just really curious, like how you came up with that.
Give me that lyric one more time.
It says, Babylon, you're rolling with your family. Babylon's the only one you condemn. You're not scared of them. And then there was another line that I'm spacing, and then it like crescendos at, I know you want to see me fall. And I just, yeah, I'm just entranced by it. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, that one, I'm trying to be more sarcastic, to be completely real, because it's just like, I don't really care if that's what that's what you want to see. It's meant to be a little bit more sarcastic, honestly.
Well, that's how it came off. It came off very powerfully, very self-secure.
Yeah, because I know who's to blame. The only one we condemn is who? The only one we condemn is who?
Babylon.
Right. So
I didn't know we were doing question answer.
So it's like, so that's kind of really the perspective. That's really what I was trying to say, really. Refocusing rage.
Yeah.
Refocusing, energies.
I will say, when I took a break, not so much a break from music, but a break from my role as an entertainer, which also brought with it a role of like engaging, quote, fans almost as customers, and like the anxiety that I fucking felt, not just to always outdo myself and raise the bar creatively, but also to like please everyone. It was so grotesquely stifling, and that's really where I took the break to like pull back and set new boundaries about like how I'm gonna share myself and only to what limits, and how I wanna explore my future as an artist. And it was about a year off of music until me and my father, the phrase we used was like, music is the process, not the product. And even though I wasn't thinking about it, I realized it was like over a decade where music was a product for me. It rang true when you were talking about syncs and shit, Spotify releases, numbers, all that crap. And it's not irrelevant, but it's just so different when you get that chance just to participate in it, whether you're fucking tapping on a table with someone else or holding rhythm with a stranger or singing a song or whatever. And yeah, I can't wait for our next studio date to see what comes out of your imagination.
Feels.
Somehow we've been on the phone for an hour and a half, so I'm gonna wrap this up with a thank you and I love you, and I can't wait to explore life in the future with you. Do you have anything you want to say?
Dude, indeed, dude. Yeah, we went down the rabbit hole.
We might still be down there.
I think we're definitely down there somewhere. But I appreciate you. Like thank you. As always, you're the man. Like
you're also the man.
Like I feel connected to you, man. Like fam, for real.
For real.
I'm excited for what's ahead, and yeah, man.
If I don't see you before Lilo's next pool party, I'm sure I'll talk to you many times before that. And
yeah, come and visit us out here in the mountains. 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 Out here in the mountains.